Zai, what up, what up, what up, family? Zaire, what's up, family? What's good with you, man? Call in. The number's 929-227-4646. 929-227-4646. Shadu Char Fountaine, straight no chase at the talk show. I'm here dolo for the moment. My other guests should be pulling up in a little bit, I guess. Traffic is crazy. But yeah, we here for the drug talk. And for those of you that have let me see, a skewed view about drugs and everything that that it entails, hopefully we can break down some of the aspects of drug culture. For the most part, when people hear drugs, we think of things that, or substances that are mind and mood altering substances. And that's the definition of a drug. And it includes alcohol as well. A mind and mood altering substance. It affects in some way the neurotransmitters in your brain, the melatonin, the dopamine, your nerve centers, the part of your brain that deals with reason, deals with reaction, deals with excitement, things that give you a euphoria. That's one aspect of it. There are other things, concerning drugs that will give you a calming effect, will make you feel at ease. And for the most part, I would like people to realize and understand that the majority of the drugs that are legal, the majority of the drugs that are prescribed for us are derived from natural substances. I was reading somewhere where people were talking about cocaine and heroin, like as the hard drugs that, street drugs, legendary street drugs, cocaine and heroin primarily. All these other new things is brand new. Then that was redundant. These new things are brand new. But cocaine coming from the coca plant, heroin coming from the poppy plant. These things had medicinal purposes when they were used by the natives of their origin, wherever land they were first grown. They were used for medicinal purposes. To my knowledge, the coca leaf was put between the your gum and the lip, or either under the tongue for a sublingual absorption, and mixed with ground seashells. The seashells have lime, a high concentration of lime, and the lime and the saliva mixed with the coca leaf, you were able to extract the alkaloids, and it allowed the workers to withstand periods of hunger because it quelled the appetite, and it gave them energy and allowed them to work. And so in poor countries such as like Colombia, South America, period, these leaves were used and to enable them to keep working and to keep producing as farmers. Because if you think about it, the people that actually produce the coca paste, from the extraction from the leaf to the paste and then it's processed further, they're farmers. They're not, scientists per se. They're farmers. That's their main or only income. You feel me? So when you think about drugs, I would like us to look at it from an aspect from a natural standpoint and not the convoluted thing that it's come to be. Even with heroin and with the poppy plant, these are all natural things. These are natural painkillers. Damn near every opioid that was in production came from the poppy plant, whether it was heroin, codeine. It's a few others I can't just think of right away, but they all come from the poppy plant. Their natural property is of a pain reliever. And so in certain eras, maybe in like the late 1800s, early 1900s, you had companies like Bayer Aspirin, or not Bayer Aspirin, but the Bayer company, that they used cocaine and or heroin in their tinctures of miracle medicines. And they got their formulas somewhat from the natives of many different lands. It's not until the abuse of these particular drugs came into prominence that it became a real issue. And if a person does their history and understands that the Vietnam War specifically created a lot of heroin addicts. A lot of heroin addicts. Because you have to think of it in this way. You have young men that are 18, 19, 20 years old. They go over to a land that's a foreign land. They're over there scared to death. Some are courageous, but some are, for the most part, scared to death. And they were prompted to do things that went against their morals and principles, and it damaged their psyche. And oftentimes, in order to deal with trauma, people will opt to go to something that's a mind-altering substance. Because to be in your right mind and to constantly think about the things that you've done that you know is not right, but you may have had to do to survive, it's something that can drive you damn near crazy. So they use particular things, what was available, which is opium, heroin, morphine, things of that nature, to cope. And what happened is you have, upon their release, hundreds of thousands of drug addicts released back into their city, whatever city. But the trauma that comes with being in the war, murdering people, scared to death every day, PTSD, and you having something to deal with that situation. And now when you're out of that situation where maybe that particular drug was applicable and it helps you in that aspect, but now you're back home where those dangers are not present, but you still have that same habit. You still have that same conditioning where you smoke opium, and now you can't get raw opium, so you have to use the derivative. You have to use what is the next best thing. And that's why the heroin boom of the mid-'60s to, I would say, late 70s in New York City. I think I read somewhere where New York City had over maybe 500,000 heroin addicts. You feel me? 500,000 heroin addicts. And I'm not saying all, but you have to understand that you have 300,000 military men that came back from the war. And now they compose half of the people that are heroin addicts. They were already addicts or opioid addicts before they came home. But now they're here. And some people were opportunists. You had the Italians that capitalized on the drug epidemic. They wanted to keep the heroin in the black neighborhoods. They didn't want it spilling over into the white neighborhoods. They wanted to keep it into the black neighborhoods. They wanted to keep the black veterans that were addicted, keep them addicted. And it was an era that seemed glamorous because for the most part you was shown the images of the people with the Rolls Royces, the Nicky Barnes and the Frank Matthews and all of these gangsters that they glorified as these were kingpins, guys that came from nothing that were multi-millionaires. But what we don't realize is that, that particular drug culture, where it came from and what it spawned. And so just particularly focusing on heroin, moving forward to present day, there's a so-called all-out war against opioids by the government, which is funny because they in hand with pharmaceutical companies already knew what they were doing. They already knew that these new drugs, these designer drugs, these synthetic drugs, the Oxycontins, the Roxycontins, all these different synthetic opioids, they knew that these drugs were like 10, 20 times more powerful than the rawest heroin that was ever produced. And they knew that these doctors are prescribing these drugs to just everyday regular people. These are people that have had surgeries, accidents, sports injuries, different things like that where they're in pain. And, Tylenol 3, which may have worked at one time, now they're giving you something stronger. Now they're giving you something that's going to not only knock out the pain, but have you now addicted to this particular drug. Whereas you don't even take the drug to get high, you take it to be normal. And what happened was, in my opinion, it got out of hand. But if you tell me that the government didn't know it was going to get out of hand, that's bullshit. They knew. It got out of hand, but the wrong people in their eyes were affected. It was supposed to hit a demographic of people of color and poor whites. Okay? People of color and poor whites. Because let's not be confused. The white elite don't give a fuck about poor whites. They care more about class than they do about color or race. They view themselves as a different class. Okay, they view themselves as a different bloodline. They don't give a fuck if you're a poor Irish living in a trailer park. They don't care. They don't care about that. That's because you may be the same complexion or the same racial background, so to speak. They don't give a fuck. Period. They don't. If you don't fit within their demographic of what they think is elite, then you're expendable just like any black person. And that's for any white person that's watching. That's the message for you. So what happens is the opioid epidemic. So they cut people's dosages or the amount of opioids that you can legally receive from your doctor. So what does that do? If a person normally took, I don't know, 30 milligrams of Percocet, whatever, 4 times a day, and now the doctor tells you, well, you can't get your normal dosage, so that's going to have to decrease your usage to twice a day. But your body is still needing that 4 times a day dose. You can't tell your body, oh, no, well, we got to cut back. It doesn't work like that. So what a person does is they go out into the street to seek something that's a substitute or the next best thing. The same way the people in the army came home and was smoking opium, and they come home and there's no opium. Well, they say, well, what the hell is just like opium? Well, you got to go get you a bag of heroin, a bag of dope. Okay, well, that's what we'll do because I need this just to get to work or just to get along. Well, you have people that will every day, respectful people. I'm not talking about the larcenous people that are out there doing crazy stuff and degenerates. No, just regular everyday people, doctors, lawyers, nurses, everybody that had a pain and would prescribe something. I'm not going to say everybody, but a lot of people became addicted. They found themselves in the grips of addiction. They found themselves in the grips of a drug culture that snuck up on them. Now, see, I knew a lot of y'all thought I was just going to talk about crack, right? Like some hood shit. No, my mind goes way above just the hood. We're gonna talk about some crack shit too, but we're gonna go into the fact of a lot of people got hoodwinked and got sucked into the pharmaceutical drug culture. And this is a fact. It's not something I'm making up. This is a fact. They got sucked into the pharmaceutical drug culture. A person could say to someone, well, you know what? I think you took too many of those Percocets, or I think you took too many of those Adderalls. But the doctor prescribed it. But the doctor gave it to me. See, people have an authoritative complex where they think that because someone that has a credential or someone that has this particular expertise in this field says this is okay and you can take this and this is for you, that somehow it's okay to consume as much as they may want to because the doctor gave it to you. I didn't put my money in a hole. I didn't have to, walk down some alley and give my money to somebody and wait for them to come back or whatever case may be. I got this from a doctor. I got a prescription. My medical coverage from my good ass job, you know what I'm saying, covers this. So it's an air of legitimacy that enabled people to become even more and more addicted because from a moral standpoint, they didn't feel it was wrong. They felt like everything is good as long as the doctor is okay with it. As long as the doctor says it's cool, I'm good. And what you will have now is people that were just everyday hardworking people that may have had accidents and surgeries. Doesn't have to be an accident. You can have a person that had a hernia or had kidney stones or something of that nature, and they had to have operations. And, you know, they had to have some type of painkillers. They got the morphine drip. They got the morphine drip while they were in the hospital. They were in the hospital for an extended stay, for as long as their medical coverage would pay for it, but they were in the hospital for an extended stay. You can't put somebody on medication for 3 weeks of a steady dose of an opiate, a strong opiate, and then you release them from the hospital and you think that everything is okay. They don't need it no more. And then you have crooked doctors that were overprescribing, because, you know, the more they increase your habit, the longer they have you as a customer. You had a whole lot of underhanded things. A lot of doctors went to jail. You know, the doctors were the middlemen, period. It's like the pharmaceutical companies that knew they were producing this high potent drug had to go through the doctor because the doctor prescribed it. And then the pharmacies were making money. Everybody had their hand in it. It was a culture, or is a culture, that I think caught white America off guard. When I say white America, I mean the white people of America who the corporations didn't think it would catch. It got them. And that's when it became a problem. When you had famous people dying, when you had so-called prominent people dying, you had school teachers overdosing on fentanyl, which is a synthetic opiate, on fentanyl and heroin in the bathroom of the school. You have lawyers, you know, found dead in the lobby of their apartment building, and it's an opiate. And when I say lawyer, because that person very well knew that that was illegal. If nobody else knew, they knew that was illegal. But, you know, you never know where it stemmed from. But for the most part, okay, in my opinion, it came from being prescribed certain drugs. And then after they tell you, well, your prescription ran out, but your body still needs that fix. And that's a culture that many don't understand. Many are confused. Many are upset. And they don't understand that culture is what you do, what you live, your surroundings, what you experience. And if you continue to experience something on a daily basis, I'm not saying if it's right or wrong. I'm saying, but if you continue to experience the same things over and over and over again, it becomes something that's normal to you. You walk out your door every day and you see people nodding in the street. It becomes normal. You walk out your door every day and you start to smell weed smoke coming from every which direction. It's normal. It's not a shock anymore. You're not appalled anymore. You accept it because it's part of your culture. Now, to branch off into another area, because some people think that marijuana, weed, is a gateway. I will say that I've known plenty of people that started off with weed, but the reason why they started off with weed was that was more accessible. If they wanted to have their mind and their mood altered or changed, the thing that they could reach out first to was alcohol. Some people didn't like the taste, and sometimes it made them a little dizzy or made them nauseous. But weed was more accessible. You know, it was nothing back in the days to, you know, get a tray bag. You feel me? Get a nickel bag, and you could roll up, I don't know, maybe 7 to 8 joints for $5. And if it was 5 people that put in $1 a piece, everybody got 1.5 joints. It was so easy, to get it, that it was like no big deal. Plus, there was no real adverse effects. Nobody ever, to my knowledge, ever smoked a joint or smoked a blunt and went home and beat their wife. Nobody, to my knowledge, has ever not been able to get weed and picked up their gun and went on a rampage, robbing people. Nobody, to my knowledge. Now, but what will happen is people will smoke weed and they will use other drugs in tandem. But because you can readily smell weed in the air or on a person, if a person comes around you and they're acting kind of funny or they're acting like kind of erratic, but you can smell the weed on them, or you may have seen them smoking, but you didn't see that little pill they took, or you didn't see that little cup that they were sipping and had the codeine syrup in it. You didn't see that, or you didn't know what it was. But because you can readily smell the weed, automatically you attribute their actions to, that's that weed they got now. They spray it. They do all this. And that comes from people that have no fucking idea what they're talking about. No idea what they're talking about when it comes down to this new weed, they spray it. Please, you have horticulturalists that cultivate different strains of weed to produce a product that has a higher THC level. That's why people get higher and the effect is much more intense. Nobody sprays no fucking weed. Okay, y'all lame motherfuckers, they be trying to fucking prescribe y'all perspective about this, that, and the other, and you've never been immersed in the culture. Shut the fuck up for a minute and learn something. I'm trying to educate you. Nobody's spraying no weed. Okay, and for the people that talk about that K2, that's some other botanical shit that they spray with different chemicals, which is probably similar to angel dust embalming fluid, and it's driving motherfuckers crazy. But when people tell you in the news that they don't know what it is, please, people, they have scientists that can test any goddamn thing, and they can exactly tell you what the components of this particular things are. So when they tell you that, oh, they don't know what that is, and they're trying to crack down on the K2, stop thinking that certain things aren't manufactured, not by the government, but by agencies that work in tandem with the government and placed in certain neighborhoods to increase a certain erratic behavior. And that justifies them doing a whole bunch of other shit. Okay, but that's a whole nother show. But stop thinking that. And that's not a conspiracy. This is things that you can use deductive reasoning to find out. So now, when it comes down to the weed, you got people that are actually medicated by the weed. You have people that have PTSD. You have moms out there that are stressed. I'm talking about regular mom, 3 kids, 2.5 kids, 3 kids. She works as well. She has a supportive husband. But damn, she gets stressed. She still has the housework to do. She has her job to do. She has to get the kids ready in the morning. She has to make the breakfast. I mean, she has a lot of shit to do. At the end of the day, she just needs to relax. She just needs to say, you know what? Whew, I need a woosah moment. And her smoking a joint or a blunt does that for her. It's no different than someone saying, I worked my ass off today. Let me stop off at the bar and have a little drink. Something to mellow me out. It's no different. Okay, but because they demonize and they penalize people for weed, marijuana, right? People think that it's a worse substance than, say, tobacco or alcohol. Well, that's the furthest from the truth. Now, you will have some people that will say, well, the carcinogens that people inhale and the smoke. And, well, if a person would really understand that there's about, I don't know, maybe like fucking 175 different ingredients in cigarettes. And the other ingredients, the highly addictive, not just the nicotine, but the other highly addictive ingredients, when they combine together and form new chemical substances, those are the things that actually like kind of get you fucked up. The fire retardant filters in cigarettes, because you ever realize that the filter doesn't catch fire. How the fuck are you smoking something through a filter that is not flammable? What kind of substance is that made of? Think about it for a minute. So when you inhale all of these different chemicals from cigarettes, it fucks you up in the long run. Weed may not smell that pleasant to some people. To me, it has a nice aromatic type of smell. Sometimes when I smell it, it makes me want to season my food with it, because it makes me think the food will taste exquisite. But we have been conditioned to think that certain things are bad that are as not bad as we think they are. There are certain things that when it comes to alcohol, alcohol consumption is okay as long as you don't consume too much, as long as you don't abuse alcohol. Okay, it's cool. Even doctors will recommend red wine for the flavonoids and other chemical properties that are in wine. They just don't recommend that you drink a fucking jug. They say, have 1 or 2 glasses a night. A night. Even pregnant women, it's okay to drink wine. Okay? In moderation, not in excess. And I'm making this comparison because, like I said, in a few years, pretty much so, weed is going to be legal, all across the United States. All across the United States. Number one, because they feel as though it's hugely profitable on the legal side. It's hugely profitable. Colorado, when they legalized it, they had a boom in their economy stemming straight from the dispensaries. So they understand the money aspect of it. And see, this is where we're not even talking about morality anymore. We're talking about legality. And this is what they do. But for the most part, when you smoke, in my opinion, moderately, and you understand the type of marijuana that you're smoking and the properties that it possesses and what it does to particular organs in your body and to your mind, people are not more so self-medicating. What they're doing is, well, then again, they may be self-medicating. Let me take that back. But what they're doing is finding what makes them and soothes them, what makes them feel cool, what eases their tensions. We're not talking about the glaucoma, because everybody doesn't have glaucoma. But we're talking about people that have, tremendous nervous issues. People that have, some really stressful situations that have happened to them. And this is what calms them down. It works. What do y'all think was in the peace pipe when the Indians so-called made peace with the people that later on betrayed them? Why you think they call it the peace pipe? It's like, let's smoke. The same way somebody be like, yo, all that shit we was talking about, we was beefing about, that shit ain't about nothing, my dude. Word up, yo, let's go smoke. Let's light up. And let's vibe. Let's open up our, third eye. Let's just vibe and have a good time. It has nothing to do with violence. Nobody smokes weed and all of a sudden it gets violent. Nobody smokes a blunt and all of a sudden he going to get his gun. It doesn't happen that way. Not unless it's mixed with some shit. We're talking about just regular, straight weed. And so when we talk about the culture of drugs, and I just gave y'all 2 situations, the illegal side concerning heroin, where a lot of heroin use stemmed from back in the mid-'60s, early '70s, and late '70s. And from the weed aspect, talking about the Indian smoking, and it now becoming more mainstream and acceptable because they realize, come on, we can't fight it. It's, what the fuck for? Let's make some money off it. And by the way, I do think that if they make marijuana recreational use legal, then anybody that was ever caught with a certain amount of weed that was just their personal thing, all of that shit should be expunged from their record. Because now all of a sudden, y'all criminalized it before. People are spending years and years and years in prison because they possessed it. But now y'all legalize it. So if y'all going to do that, y'all should expunge certain things from their record and bring them people home. I want to ask if anybody has anything to say, can you please call in? The number is 929-227-4646. 929-227-4646. My guest isn't here. He may not show up, but that's cool because I was prepared to hack it all alone and just have fun with my people out there checking out the podcast and, just support me doing what I do. So if y'all have anything to say before I go on to the next part, I would love for y'all to call in, chime in, and let me know what you got to say or what you think. Okay, nobody just yet. Now we're going to go on to this part about the cocaine and the crack era. Not a touchy subject, but I'm going to touch on the subject. Coming up, I really didn't understand what it was about cocaine specifically. Being a detriment, because all I saw was like people partying and having a good time. You heard about it in Hollywood, Studio 54, like all these glamorous parties with the celebrities, because at one time, cocaine was a celebrity drug. You had to have money. I'm not going to say celebrity, but you had to have money. It wasn't a cheap drug. And I saw that as like, okay, well, they sniffed that as an enhancer, because you think about how old I am and me seeing the detriment of heroin versus the cocaine aspect. It was opposite ends of the spectrum. In terms of what it did to you. I never saw, when it was just cocaine, I never saw anyone, how would you say? I mean, they would stay up for days, and you would see the same person with the same clothes on for 3 days in a row. So they were still up from Wednesday to Friday. They were still up, but they weren't like in an aggressive mood. They weren't like fidgety. I didn't view them as a threat of any kind. And when freebase was introduced to the masses, and because it was introduced, a scientist came up with the formula to extract the actual base, from the powdered cocaine to make it into a smokable form where it contained the actual oil. And this is not something that somebody in a hood kitchen came up with. This is something that someone that was knowledgeable about chemistry came up with. And they piped this formula along with the cocaine into particular neighborhoods. They pumped it into people of color's neighborhood and poor whites. I have to keep injecting poor whites because some people think that this was just something that was plagued upon black and Latino people. No, it wasn't. Poor whites too. I told you they don't give a fuck about poor whites. That's a misleading perspective. They don't give a fuck about poor whites. They don't care. Period. It's all about classism, not just a racism issue. So they put this formula out. Right? Because at one time, I mean, people were selling keys of cocaine because coming from a street point of view, they always wanted people to be able to use it 3 ways. They wanted you to be able to sniff it. They wanted you to be able to smoke it. And they wanted you to be able to use it intravenously. So they did not convert all cocaine to crack, even though crack or freebase was more highly addictive. They still had 2 other aspects, 2 other type of customers that they wanted to cater to. And this is why they kept it in the powdered form. So once the middleman got it, then he could do what he needed to do with it, cut it, dilute it, whatever. And then the street person could distribute it and do how they wanted to do it. They made sure they covered all bases. But when crack cocaine hit the street, it was a tidal wave. You saw not every people. You saw people that were everyday people that were classy people. Some of the classiest women, some of the classiest men that I knew. I mean, people that I looked up to that were like, wow, I would like to be like him when I get older. Or her, like she's the epitome of what a classy woman is to be. She's to be envied. And I saw these type of people just deteriorate because of the effect that not cocaine, we're talking about freebase, we're talking about crack cocaine, the effect that it had on them. And at a certain time, I was like, because I grew up in an environment where that was prevalent. And at a certain time, I felt to myself, wow, this is a phenomenon, but it's going to pass. It's not going to last that long. But no, it lasted longer than what I expected. It lasted decades. And I'm surprised that I still hear about people that smoke crack today because things can be generational, but damn, this is going on like the 3rd generation. And when I see and hear the government, Ronald Reagan and Nancy Reagan with the war on drugs bullshit, and I learned about the Oliver North and the Iran-Contra situation where they were funneling drugs in, the CIA was funneling drugs in with the knowledge of Oliver North, with the knowledge of the president, with damn near the stamp of approval of the president, or maybe by default. Maybe he said, get the money, raise the money however you see fit, and I'm going to turn a blind eye to it. So by default, he allowed it. At the same time, telling the public it's a war on drugs, which is bullshit. And, I witnessed the influx, right, of all of these different things happening to our neighborhoods. And it's a tidal wave. You can't control it. And sorry to say that, I became a participant in certain things that, for me, I really didn't understand the moral aspect of it, because, like I said, it's a culture. And I'm going somewhere with this, and I need you to understand me. When I say something is a culture, it means that it's around you so much, it becomes a way of life, a way of your life. And so you don't start to see it as a negative or something that's wrong, because either you don't yet understand the detriment of it, or you don't understand the complexities of it. So you just accept it as, well, this is how it is. It is what it is. So-and-so's mother's addicted. My mother's addicted. My cousin's is addicted. This is what it is. This is how it is over here, because all you see is that. Not until you step outside of that realm do you notice and understand that, no, not everybody is like that. We're not like that. They're not like that. And then you understand that your community and your life is severely afflicted. And only then can you tell by comparison. So, like I said, I became a participant. I became a person that was making money off of the illegal sale of drugs. I've never hid that. So it's not a surprise for anybody that's witnessing me say this. It's not like, oh, shit, he said that. Yeah, I said it. I paid my time. I did my time. I paid my penalties for it. So nothing I tell you about myself right today can be ever held against me. And if it's someone that wants to be not judgmental, because I don't care if y'all judge me, because judgment means to assess. Okay, let me break that down. To be a judge means you are assessing someone's life or their character or their actions, right? To the critics, I don't give a fuck about how y'all feel about me. You can criticize me day in, day out. Okay, but I bet you I'm more open and honest than any of y'all motherfuckers put together for the people that are critical. And I'm not talking about constructive criticism. I'm talking about the people sitting back in their chairs, in their couches, pointing their fingers, talking about this, that, and the other, because, you just want to have somebody to point their finger at. I'm talking about y'all motherfuckers. But anyway, I did my time, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot about people that didn't understand the culture that they were immersed in. They didn't get the severity, you know what I'm saying, of their actions, because nobody really understood it. See, you have to understand that when cocaine and crack came to be, it was a brand new thing for a lot of people. They didn't really understand the aspects of it. They didn't get it. They didn't know that it was going to grip them to the point that they would do or commit vile crimes in the pursuit of money, in the pursuit of power. Women didn't understand that they would be compelled to sell their bodies, sell their possessions, sell their souls. A lot of guys didn't understand that they would sell out their homies, their families. They didn't understand that. There were no examples before us that led on to, this is what's going to happen, and this is what's most probable if you keep continuing to do this particular drug or entertain this lifestyle. Nobody knew. It became a culture. And before you knew it, you had people saying to me, I wish I could stop. I wish I could stop. I don't know how to stop. I don't know where to start in order to stop. I don't know how to start stopping. I don't know where to, because there's no blueprint. And then what emerged after that were the treatment centers. And you had these treatment centers where they had therapeutic communities. Therapeutic communities where they get you in these communities and they teach you all these different fundamentals about life, and They do all these different things to try to change your scope of thinking, right? Because drug addiction, especially for crack, it's mental, and people like the euphoria. They keep chasing the high, and they like this particular thing, and it's a chase for them. It's like playing a slot machine. The chance, the thrill of what might happen, and that euphoria you get. It's a rush, and people like it. You feel me? It's part of our psyche. Your dopamine, increases, and they like it, and so they implement these different programs. And that program doesn't work, and then they implement managed care, and that program seems to not work. And my point is, money is made all throughout the whole system. See, if drug treatment centers actually worked, if it actually cured people and kept people cured, kept people sober, there was no relapse, a lot of people would be out of jobs. It wouldn't be too many drug counselors and therapeutic technicians, because your program is so good that it keeps you. Hey, we're running out of customers. We need some more drug addicts. We need some more people to be fucked up off this drug culture, so we can get some more customers in these doors, and so we can fill these beds. Because what they consider you to be when you're inside of a drug treatment facility is a consumer. You're a consumer the same way you are as if you look for what's the booklet to tell you if you bought a good car, if the car is good, or the product good. Consumer Reports. People that spend money. You represent a dollar. You represent money. You represent revenue. It's this big business. And it's all designed. Never think that something as huge as drug distribution, drug treatment, drug rehabilitation. Never think that it's not part of a system. Never think that each are not a cog in the wheel. It's all relative. It's all relative. And what happens is, when you have people that, we'll talk about NA, Narcotics Anonymous, or GA, Gamblers Anonymous, or AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, when they talk about these things that don't necessarily cost anything, where people don't necessarily make any money, but they seem to be just as effective, if not more effective, than these so-called treatment centers. They will put out propaganda that will tell you, oh, it doesn't work. Oh, it's not this, it's not that. They'll promote the methadone program, a system where people that are addicted to opioids will become now lifelong addicted to an opioid. And if you are receiving a public assistance of any kind, and you want to wean yourself off of the methadone. And I've gotten this from reputable people in my family, where they wanted to decrease their dosage of methadone gradually so they can leave it alone. But if you decrease your dosage of methadone, and you finally don't need the methadone, they threaten to cut you off. And see, that in of itself is a grip. It's a grip. So when we talk about drug culture, I'm sorry if y'all thought I was just going to talk about, the street shit, drugs, getting money. No. That's not what's important. What's important, as far as I'm concerned, is for you to understand the culture of our country and how they simultaneously will prohibit and promote drugs at the same time, if that makes any sense. They will prohibit and promote drugs at the same time. Now I want to branch off into this aspect. For any of you that have young children and your child seems a little disruptive in class, you get a note from the teacher or email from the teacher, and the teacher says, well, little Timmy, I don't know why I like to use the name Timmy, but it just seems like Timmy is the typical name. Little Timmy is becoming disruptive in class, and we would like him to see the school psychologist. You want to see the school psychologist. Okay, and why do you need a psychologist for an 8-year-old child? Like, what's that about? Because I guarantee you they're gonna diagnose little Timmy with some kind of disorder that the recommendation is going to be not talk to him a little bit more. Let's give him a little bit more recess time to burn off that energy. Maybe can you change his diet? Can you cut back on the sugar? Can you cut back on the particular foods that you may be giving him that may make him a little hyperactive? Like maybe that's the no, they're not gonna tell you that. They're gonna offer you Ritalin, Prozac, these drugs that they want to feed your children that are going to have them addicted, if not from a physical standpoint, but from a psychological standpoint. Because imagine you giving a child a drug that affects his social awareness or his ability to think in a cognitive, from a cognitive standpoint. And then all of a sudden at 16, he doesn't have this drug anymore. And now he's faced with a world that has elevated from the time he start taking these drugs to say maybe 10. From 10 to 16, 6 years he's taking these drugs. That means his mental capabilities have not progressed at the rate of other 16-year-olds. So when he stops taking it, and now he's mixed in with his peers in high school, he still has the mental capabilities, or he still has the same discernment or sensed up discernment as a 10-year-old, because it was retarded because of the medication he was taking. So now he's put into a situation where he's in with other people that are making decisions based upon years of maturity that he has not experienced. So now they're going to give him another dosage of medication, and or he's going to feel so out of place and so aggressive and so angry that he starts to act out. He starts to act out. He becomes more aggressive. He becomes more violent. And then the next step is the prison system. And it's all designed that way. Nothing happens haphazardly. It's designed to happen that exact way. But it's our drug culture. See, so many times, they even have, believe it or not, they even have Oxycontin in, I think, like 5 milligrams for children. Oxycontin, an opioid for kids. We're not talking about children's Tylenol. We're talking about Oxycontin, that if you took 2 of them, it's 10 milligrams. See, we have to understand that just because the pill is 5, it doesn't mean the person is only going to take 1 pill. People overdose. People do things in excess. I mean, shit, when I used to be like sick and I had access to Buckley's, I used to carry Buckley's in my motherfucking pocket. And I would drink that shit to the point it made me feel better. Now, was that above the recommended dosage? You fuck it wasn't. Hell yeah, it was. So what makes you think that if a parent says, well, I gave him 1 pill and he's still acting up, they're not going to give him another one? And then in order to get the amount that they're supposed to get every month from the doctor, they'll make him skip a day. Okay, in order for the pill allotment to line up to when they're supposed to get their next prescription. See, people will be clever in the shit that they do and how they go about things. And that's the sickness in people, because we've been conditioned to manipulate through this drug culture. We've been conditioned to be savvy, diagnose ourselves, medicate ourselves in the wrong way in this drug culture. And there's so many people out there that will watch this video and will be surprised because I wasn't talking about the shit they thought I was going to talk about, like the hood shit. I wasn't talking about no hood shit. And they themselves are the one that are getting someone else's medication because it came from the doctor. Right, so it must be good. Came from the doctor, I mean, back in the days, we had this lady. Her name is Miss C. For those of y'all that grew up with me or that I grew up with, or we grew up together, y'all know who I'm talking about. Miss C. Miss C was the neighborhood pharmacy, because for whatever reason she was able to get whatever people needed. And they would come to her. People didn't have a prescription. If you needed tetracycline, she had it. If you needed Flagyl, she had it. If you needed amoxicillin, she had it. If you needed penicillin, she had it. And back in those days, if you needed some Dilaudid, she had it. And people were readily accessible. Well, it was readily accessible to people, and they took it because it was a prescription. You feel me? That was the culture that we lived in. Take it because the government sanctioned it. Put it into your body because the government sanctioned it. As long as someone with authority was able to say, take this 4 times a day, such and such and such and such and such, we deemed it okay. And that, I think, is the single most detriment to us, because we became, and I say we, myself included, I told you I used to just fucking drink Buckley's out the bottle. We became our own doctors. And in becoming our own doctors, what we did was we overprescribed ourselves, and we made ourselves junkies. Junkies to pharmaceutical drugs. Junkies to a system that was never designed to make us well. It was designed to sustain us to a point. And at that particular point, if we needed more, then they would prescribe us more. But as it is now, we are a society that we're walking around. And if I had to guess in New York City, I would think that maybe you have 200,000 legal addicts in New York City. Legal addicts in New York City. Maybe 200,000. Because the pharmaceutical company done fucked us up. Really fucked us up. I mean, it didn't fuck me up because I never bought into it. Besides Buckley's, I don't take medication. Now I'm going to go off into something else, which is all along the same thing. People talk about drugs and things of that nature. My question is, medical costs are up, but they offer you that flu shot for free, right? People talking about vaccinations. You have to be vaccinated. You have to be vaccinated. Now, when a person says, well, there's a lot of diseases floating around here, and there's all these different type of things, my personal understanding is if you strengthen your immune system, right, for the exception of, a few man-made diseases, your body is able to fight off. In a normal sense, your body is able to fight off most things. This is why when a person develops HIV, when they become HIV positive and they develop AIDS, the thing that actually kills that person is not AIDS. It's another disease that, under normal circumstances, when your immune system is strong enough, your body can fight off. But because of the HIV, your body can't fight it off, and that's why you succumb to that particular disease. Under any circumstances, your body would fight it off. Matter of fact, you wouldn't even contract that disease. But because you have a lowered immune system, the disease is allowed to infiltrate your body, and that's what kills you, or that's what can kill you. So when people talk about immunization, they're putting some type of drug, or this is what I think it is, a drug, not some type of antibody, not some type of antiviral component. I think that they're putting some type of drug into your body, and they're sitting back and they're waiting to see what your reaction to the drug is. Now, because we are raised up in a drug culture, we accept all immunizations, especially if the FDA says you need it. You got to have it. You know, they're selling flu shots at Walmart. You know what I'm saying? They're selling flu shots at Target. You know, I think they might have, and I'm being facetious, I think they're selling flu shots at Best Buy. You go get a flat screen and you get your flu shot at the same time. They're making these things so readily available, right? And they're making it seem like it's the worst of the worst of the worst. They even have something called flu season. I mean, does a sickness have a season? I mean, if you think about it, does a sickness have a season? Is there HIV season? Is there gonorrhea season? Why is there a thing where the flu has a season? If it's a sickness, airborne and contagious, why is it regulated to a particular time where more people can contract this particular virus, right, than any other time? See, I'm trying to get y'all people to actually think about these particular things instead of just passing judgment on something and saying, whatever. You know, that's just Todd talking. It's me talking, but it's me making sense too. So when the person says you have to immunize your children, my question is always why? And I remember certain people that are in the medical profession, that because they are exposed to different people of all walks of life that may come into the medical facility, that this is why they have to take it as a precaution. But they've said that if they didn't work here in the hospital, in the clinic, they wouldn't take it. They would not take it at all. And I remember this specifically because not that long ago, I was going for a job as a youth counselor. And because I would be working overnights with what would be deemed to be troublesome teens, they said that I had to take I forgot what was it? It was a particular shot that I had to take, and then 6 months later I had to come and take a booster shot, whatever case may be. And because you never know what these young people out here got, and you can get into a scuffle with them, and you can, if you exchange blood and stuff like that, you could contract this or they contract that, whatever. But what delayed me with my whole process was I was so against someone injecting me with something that I didn't agree with it. But for the sake of the job, which I never got, by the way, but for the sake of the job, I went and I let them inject me with something. And it wasn't a psychological thing for me because, trust, I wasn't thinking about, am I going to feel different? But for some reason, I felt really, really different, up maybe to 3 weeks after I got the shot. My blood work always comes back, I guess, quote unquote, normal, meaning my T cells, my immune system is always high. I'm never getting sick. My TB tests always come back negative. It's always been that way. But for this reason, I maybe it could have been my mind. I don't know. Who knows? But I was like, I feel different after this shot. And I did some research on shots, on the things that they put into our body that we accept because of this culture. And mercury and some other preservatives. Preservatives. Get it? The same things I talk about that people, when you rub that cold lotion in your skin and you rub that cold shampoo into your scalp, those same things, right? Those preservatives, that methylparaben, propylparaben, those are formaldehyde derivatives. These things that we rub into our skin, part of that shit is what's injected into your body when you're getting these immunizations, vaccinations. Let me ask you a question. For y'all that are still listening and thankful to the two people that are still visible, right? Do you ever think for 1 minute that we have been so conditioned, right? So conditioned to accepting things based upon how we were raised that we never question the detriment of the things that we accept? Now, I'm asking because, come on now. I mean, I just watched somebody talk about taking whiskey when they was little, when they had a cold. right? And I'm saying to myself, whiskey when you had a cold? What the hell was that about? But you know, back in the days, this is what they would do, was the old wives' tales. You got a cold, give you some whiskey. You know what I'm saying? Give you a little bit of rum. They got a drink called a hot toddy that, by the way, has some alcohol in it, and you drink it, and it's supposed to, kill you in a way. People used to have that Vicks, and they used to rub that Vicks on their chest. Some people used to eat Vicks. Yeah, that Vicks. I think it's like a eucalyptus something that's in it. And people would eat that, and because it had this miraculous cure, or it made you feel better, people would do certain things based upon the culture, because this is what we did. Or people would do things because they say, well, my grandmother always did this with us, and this is what we did, and we turned out right. Now, I say to myself, shit, did you? Did you turn out right? I mean, how adverse are the effects of these drugs and things that we put into our bodies due to the culture? How adverse are these effects? A lady just, not just, but a lady's family won a whole bunch of money because it was proven that she had contracted cancer. Right? I think uterine cancer, some form of cancer, because of Johnson & Johnson baby powder. The talcum powder. I don't know if you are familiar with that, Slim, but she won a huge settlement, right? Because they give you these remedies. And the Johnson & Johnson are the same people that make, the pills, whatever kind of pills they make, but they make pills too. And like I said, I wish someone would call in right now. We only got, but I don't know, maybe an hour left. And I don't mind talking to y'all all day long, but I would love someone else's perspective as opposed to just you hearing me talk. I would love someone else's perspective. Looks like my guest is not going to show up, but that's cool. Because I would like to have a dialogue as opposed to it being a monologue. I would love to have a dialogue about this particular thing. Y'all see it. This. You see the number. The number's 929-227-4646. I promise to not.
It was $4.7 billion to 22 women.
$4.7 billion to 22 women.
Yep. And their families.
And their families, based upon Johnson & Johnson baby powder. Right? Mm-hmm. This is the stuff that you start your baby off with. Right? And then when your daughter specifically is 22, 35, 45 years old and develops female problems, ovarian cancer, right? Oh, she got the sickness. This is what they say down south. She got the sickness. She got female problems. But people will say, well, that runs in the family. Well, my thing is, so does practices. You feel me? So does practices. Recipes run in the family. Practices run in the family. It's not necessarily anything that has to do with what I'm trying to say. It's not something that has to do with your physical makeup. It's your habits, the culture in which you live. The things that you think it's okay to do. That's what runs in your family, because what your mother was taught, she taught you. So when you talk about, well, and I just said it, Buckley's to me was the miracle cure. That shit cured everything. Everything. Buckley's. When they took that shit away, what the fuck am I going to do? Ain't no Buckley's. But they took Buckley's away because they said there was some type of traces of ammonia. If you're familiar with that, Slim, they said there was some type of traces with ammonia that was in Buckley's, and it wasn't safe. And I'm saying to myself, but this shit worked. This shit worked. But in retrospect, me continuing to take Buckley's and not fortifying my immune system, not changing my diet, eating certain things, because ain't no Buckley's. Like, it ain't no cure, so I'm faced to attack this particular situation another way. You feel me? If they allowed me the trap door of Buckley's, would I continue to have taken Buckley's and then down the line, someone saying, yo, you heard what happened to Todd? He got Buckley syndrome. He got Buckley syndrome. No, for real, because the shit is off the market. And I mean, you could go on eBay, and I guess a few people stockpiled it, right? But you can go on eBay, and I think they have it at like maybe $40 a bottle. A bottle that would normally cost like $5 or $6, it's $40 a bottle now. They got it. That shit is just like drugs. It's the same goddamn thing. And so what I'm basically saying to y'all people is, when you understand the drug culture, when you understand that we have been sidetracked to focus on illegal drugs, things that are outlawed. Sorry to be redundant, but some people don't understand that. Things that are outlawed, things that are deemed evil, and it's the gateway. And if you smoke weed, the next thing you're going to do is stick a needle in your arm, which is all bullshit. It's all bullshit. There's a fucking 100,000 weed smokers that aren't thinking about heroin or cocaine, LSD, anything else. They just like to fuck with weed, period. And this is proven because surveys have been taken. And I've asked people personally, like, yo, you fuck with weed, right? What else you fuck with? What? What else? That's it. What you mean? What else? You drink? Nah, not that. No, not really. But I just like my weed. I'm good. Like, I work every day, come home, blow it down. I'm good. Or some people, yo, I smoke on the way to work. I'm good. Gets me through the day. And that's what they do. I think Slim has some stats. You got some stats?
No, Buckley's like 17 to like $20.
17 to 20. He's showing me the stats for Buckley. 17 to $20. How much was it originally? Like the price is like 4 times, damn near, right?
Most likely.
See? Now,
it's coming from Canada.
Coming from Canada. Now Slim is going to be your New York distributor of Buckley's. Now that he's seen now that he's seen the price differential. If you want your Buckley's, contact Slim's the Bank at FLO Empire Radio. He's going to be the New York distributor, underground. Well, not no more because I just blew him up. But now my point is, yeah, when you see certain things, right, and you know it's not right, do you not one time say to yourself, damn, how the fuck did I get here? How did I get here? How did I get to this particular point where I just accept whatever and don't question shit? There are certain things that you can use to increase your to enhance your immune system. Vegetables. I'm not just talking about vegan, because y'all vegans gonna jump on here talking about, oh, what the vegan thing, the vegan don't eat meat. Listen, if your vegetables are being grown and they're using what's the pesticide? Roundup, right? If they're using Roundup pesticide to grow your crops, that your vegetables are being grown, you're eating GMO modified stuff. And for those of you who don't know, let me give you a little science on this. Roundup, right, is a /seed company /pesticide company. And what they've done is they've patented seeds. They have patented genetically modified seeds, where if a particular food is grown, the scientists can test it and can tell what seed that this particular food came from. And what they did was, originally a pesticide company, they bought up all the seed companies. They bought all the seed companies so they can control, monopolize everything. Excuse me. And as you know, these pesticides, these chemicals, whatever case may be, they can be considered drugs, because when they enter your system, they alter your mood and they alter your mind to a degree, and they definitely alter your physical composition. So when people talk about I'm vegan, I don't eat this, I don't eat that. Do you not understand that the people that control your food control your health? Now this is all relevant to drugs. If you research Henry Kissinger, I think it's 1973, he sought to control the world population via famine. Okay, famine. That's the deprivation of food. A lot of wars were won, right? Not because the military was so mighty over the other person's military, but what they did was they cut off the transportation route for their supplies. More people starved to death in war than were actually murdered. Right? Now I'm going somewhere with this because we're talking about drugs, right? So you're like, what the fuck is he talking about? Starved to death? Because you need to see the grand scale of things. More people starved to death, okay, in war than were actually murdered, meaning like had a bullet or a bayonet put through them, because they understood that you can attack people, right, through their physical, right, without having to touch them. You can even infuse them with certain things that would break down their body, or you could deprive them of things that would break down your body. So in the midst of a drug culture, when y'all used to see what was that hood drink, the green drink, Hypnotic, only distributed in certain spots. When you see malt liquors, only distributed in certain spots. When you see K2, right, the synthetic weed, I don't see too many affluent people, white or black or Asian, on the streets running around like snakes because they smoke K2. How come it's not in their neighborhoods? How come it's not in the country store? When you're going to get your pumpkin seeds and your flour and all your other stuff from the general store, how come they don't have a few bags of K2 hanging up in there? You know why? Because it's not targeted. It's not targeted. We have to stop accepting things as our culture and understand that it's not our culture. It's what's being forced on us. It's what we're being forced to accept, and we're being branded as not real if we can't handle it. We're being labeled as like, you're not a real this, you're not a real that, if you can't deal with life, and so and so and so and so. But the machine behind it is so much bigger. So much bigger. But we readily accept it as it's our culture. It's the drug culture. And I just want to say to y'all, and I'm thankful for y'all that are still hanging in there with me, and much respect to the people that are watching, but don't let me know you watch, but I know you watching, so still respect to you. When we're out there dealing with society, I would love for all of us to be cognizant of the particular brands of alcohol that are pushed towards us, and how they make these things seem so affluent. I remember a long time ago, I used to go to a restaurant called Maroons. Shout out to Arlene Weston, who is the owner of Maroons. Arlene Weston is a good friend of mine. We stay in contact. She's living a good life right now out in Massachusetts. Good people. But I used to sit sometimes in Arlene's. It would just be me and her, or her and I. I'm sorry, poor grandma. It would be her and I, and we sitting at the bar, and I would buy a drink. Well, I would buy a round, and she would give a round. I would buy a round, and she would give a round. Every other round was on the house. Cool. And I asked her, I said, well, why do you charge so much for your particular drinks? And why don't you have certain brands of alcohol on the menu? And she said, well, it's a way to weed out certain people that we don't desire as customers. It's not that we don't appreciate them or respect them as people. We just don't want that type of energy in the establishment. And I said, well, expound more. And she said, well, you know what? A person that doesn't mind spending, you know, $12 a drink for a good drink, good quality drink, right? Is a person that understands that, shit, I got bills to pay, I got overhead, and they don't mind contributing. And that's what's up. And they said that the other person that wants to mix, because what she did not serve was, she did not serve Hypnotic. And no, she had Hennessy privilege, but there was no Hypnotic. And she said there will be no Incredible Hulks served here. And I said, why not? She says, because I don't like the way it makes people act. I don't like the combination of that drink. I don't like it. I don't like the attitude. And that doesn't make a difference who drinks it. White, black, Asian, Hispanic, I don't care. I don't like the way it makes people act. And I said, well, wow. And she said, well, you know, that's what they promote. She says, in all these videos, they promote these particular drinks because it gets people to acting crazy. And she says, I don't want that. I want to have a nice establishment where people can come and be mellow, and the buzz that they get comes from the exact properties of the drinks that we make, or the properties of the drinks that, you know, come from the bottle. We don't want you acting crazy. We don't want violence in here. We don't want somebody becoming enraged. We want people to act civil, enjoy themselves, enjoy the food, enjoy the atmosphere, go home and come back again. And only then did I really understand the science of, because like I said to y'all, alcohol is a drug. It's a mind and mood altering substance. It's a drug. No matter what the fuck you may want to think, it's a drug. And I didn't understand the science behind, you know, drinks, concoctions, why the fuck a Long Island iced tea can be deadly. I didn't understand the science behind it until it was explained to me by a woman that said, listen, we want to be able to monitor maybe control the moods of the people that are our customers, because we want an even keel. We don't want nobody coming here to order food, or they're bringing their family here and people are irate. So we don't serve the drinks that make them irate. And so I said one time when someone came to the door and they looked in and they heard the easygoing music, and they came and they ordered a drink, and the bartender said, well, we don't serve that. And they said, what? He said, no, we don't have that. They was asking for what was the red Alizé? They wanted Alizé and they wanted Hennessy. And they said, well, we don't serve Alizé. And they were like, what? Man, I'm out of here. And then I understood that, yo, that's the desired effect. You don't never have to tell a person that they're not welcome. You just don't have to make them welcome. You feel me? By providing what they want. And people will excuse themselves. And within this drug culture, within the culture of us doing what we like to do and having fun the way we like to have it and so on and so forth, in my old age. Oh, by the way, sidebar. I'm not going to say I was stopped, but Lieberhart on the way here, or on the way to the station, stopped a young lady and asked the young lady how old I looked. And the young lady told me I looked like I was 40. That's a blessing, because I'm 12 years above that. So that was a blessing. So shout out to Lieberhart, because I know you watching on the low. So yeah, I look like I'm 40 today, and that's because of the hat. But anyway, when it comes down to our culture and how we deal with certain things, I'm old enough now to really understand and combat and be an iconoclast when it comes down to what people say we're supposed to do and what we're supposed to accept. Nah, I no longer subscribe to that dumb shit. Nah, I have my own culture. I have my own drug culture. Because there's things that, you know, like I said, I don't take pills. I don't take cough syrup. I don't, you know, but shit, I drink. So I'm not saying I'm any better than anyone else. I'm not saying that I'm so much different, right? I'm just a facet, right, of a condition or of a conditioning. Let me rephrase, of a conditioning, right, of our people. I'm a facet. And I never want people to look at me and be like, yo, Todd, you think you know everything? Oh, no, that's not the point. My sole purpose every week in having this show is to open up minds, mine included, include people in discussion. Yeah, I try to offend a few people here and there just because y'all motherfuckers need it sometime. But to try to get people to understand and know me better, and for me to know me better and to know y'all better. But for the most part, y'all just like to just sit here and just listen to me talk, and y'all just talk to yourselves on the what's the name, in the chat thing. But yeah, I want to not close, but I want to like wind it down with this here. When it comes down to the drug aspect, drug culture, mood or mind altering substance. And y'all should know I was going to save this one for last. The same way that they have alcoholics, drug addicts, gambling addicts, they will also have sex addicts. We're in a culture now where sex is being treated like a drug. Now, I'm not asking you if it's right or wrong. I'm just asking your opinion. Sex is being treated like a drug, whereas you have men and women that are carrying out certain habitual practices, sexual practices. I'm not talking about with minors. I'm not talking about the R. Kelly shit, but they're out there doing whatever they're doing, and then they go into a sex rehab. Now, I'm asking, is there a correlation between the euphoria that a person will get from an actual substance, right? Ingested, inhaled, or absorbed? Is there any correlation between what a person may see? Because people have been diagnosed as sex addicts. It's because of what they see, habitual porn consumers. You heard that word before, right? Porn consumers. And I'm not concerned, but just, I'm asking, has sex become a new drug? Has sex become something that we enjoy between our loved one, our lust one, our one we not supposed to be fucking with one? But has it become something that we are obsessed with? Has it become something that we have developed an insatiable appetite towards? Because this culture is more open. Back in the days, remember we had WHT? For those of you old enough to remember, we had WHT, and you can catch a glimpse of a titty or nipple, maybe. If you look down at the screen and you could decipher through that little wiggly line, you might see something, right? And this has been home box office, which is HBO was first starting out as well. It was WHT, or Mecco Home Theater, because I had the box, and it was what's the name? Home box office, HBO. And I was fascinated by certain things. I was like, yo, you saw that? Because I didn't believe and understand that people were doing that out in the open. And so now within this drug culture, a lot of things that are associated with drugs are associated with sex. A lot of guys will say, yo, I got to get me a little Henny and a blunt, and then I got to find me a chick. Like, the chick is the last part, but she's a component. You feel me? She's a part of it. It's not just, I'm cool with the Henny and the blunt. I need to find the chick. A lot of dudes would be like, yo, I got some coke. Now I need to find a broad. And I'm saying it the way they would say broad, right? I'm pretty much sure it's a bunch of women out there that you may not admit it, but y'all have received the dope dick. And the dope dick is the guy that uses heroin that can fuck you endlessly, right? Whereas he makes sure you came and he doesn't, turn flaccid, because the dope dick allows him to stay hard but not ejaculate. So I'm pretty much sure it's a bunch of y'all that have probably experienced that are not going to say anything, and it's cool. So now we have the infusion, right, of sex and drugs, and it's all part of the culture. Where do you think the term sex, drugs, rock and roll come from? It's all part of the culture. Now, sex is a motivating factor for damn near everything that we do, men and women, because come on, for the most part, listen, we're sexually driven people. Okay, we don't have sex just for procreation. We have sex because it's fun, and procreation comes about in the process of. That's not why we fuck. We fuck because it feels good. The majority of people have sex ain't got nothing to do with having no kid. Nothing to do with it. You feel me? But also a lot of people have sex, and they can only have sex if they're under the influence of some particular drug. I've had people say, well, I popped the E-pill and I was, wow, I was crazy. I was doing this. I was doing that. I sniffed whatever, a gram, and I was that man in the bedroom. I drank, and that's why I was able to perform even longer, because I was too drunk, and so on, so on, so on. So sex correlates, right, with the drug culture. We don't see anything wrong to a degree with a person going out to a club, getting drunk, getting with somebody that they have no idea who the fuck they are, what their name is, whatever, having sex, and you chalk it up to the culture. And I'm just asking, how was that? How did we get to that point where we're just so frivolous in our sexual activity, and we chalk it up to, yo, I was fucked up. Or you hear some young ladies be like, yo, I popped the E-pill, yo, I did this. Yeah, like they justify it by they did a particular drug, and because they did the drug and the drug had them incapacitated, or, their mind or mood was altered, that it's okay. How do we where do we get to that point? How do we come to that point where that's what it is? Shout out to Cynthia Severs. That's my cousin Cynthia. She's in the building. Shout out to Brian out. I see you too. I'm just going down. Shout out to Vincent Bowman. Hey, yo, Vince, call the fuck in. The number's 929-227-4646. That's my dude, Vince Bowman. I've known Vince since, ooh, damn, we was in high school. Known Vince since like 1983, some shit like that. Okay? Vince always has an opposing view. He always has something to say. Hey, yada, yada, yada. I don't agree with that. Well, call in. The number's 929-227-4646. I give everybody a chance to challenge me. If y'all think that I'll just be talking mumbo jumbo and I'll just be making crazy statuses and all this kind of shit, how or why is it when I give you a chance to address me in a full-on dialogue, one-on-one, where we ain't got to wait and do this and, restructure the sentences, and no, this is rapid fire questioning. How come nobody wants to challenge me? Because I'm open. I'm wide open for any consideration. And like I said, yes, I am fucking judgmental, as are the most of you. I'm not critical like y'all are. I'm not critical. I'm judgmental because I assess, as you should. But I'm not trying to tear you down. I'm just trying to build on whatever we're talking about. So, since Vince Bowman is a punk and he's not going to call in, I just had to say that. I'm going to continue. So yeah, like I said, we have sex infused. Sex is always infused with our culture, with our drug culture. Very rarely will you see drug culture without sexual culture. Very rarely are you presented with a situation where somebody was drunk as fuck or they was high as fuck and sex wasn't a part of it. It's not like a dude be getting drunk as fuck and says, I'm just gonna go be by myself. It doesn't happen like that. Or somebody's coked up, male or female, and they say, I just want to be alone. No, it's always in the act of social activity. It makes people feel real loose, real carefree. It lowers their inhibitions. And so when I see people out there and they're in this culture and they're free sexually, my question is always, how much does does a drug have to do with that particular action? Because in this day and age, when we're talking about being safe, we're talking about being conscious about who we're with. One is correlated with the other. And if we want to talk about educating people, we want to talk about spreading a good word, spreading the gospel, not some bullshit church scriptures, right? When we talk about just being who you are, as a, as a person and just being real, damn, do we even know how? Do we even know how? I got a late guess. Hold on. Late guess. Give me 1 minute. Late guess. 1 minute. I'm trying to give instructions. Okay, I'm sorry. When we talk about, just a person being like, yo, listen, yo, for real, yo, I'm this type of person. I'm that type of person. Who are you without the drugs? Without the drugs, without the Hennessy, without the tequila, without the weed, who are you without the drugs? Do we even know who the fuck we are without the drugs? Because some people only seem to have this particular character and this particular bravado when they're under the influence. If you take away all of that thing, that courage, who the fuck are we? Have we become a society that we base everything upon our dare? We base everything upon our challenge. Have we become that person? You challenged me. So you dared me. So for the culture, I gotta be this particular way. I gotta act like this. I gotta act like that. For the culture, who the fuck have we become? Now I have a guest that's coming on, and they'll be upstairs at approximately 7:45, and they're only gonna have 9 minutes to talk. And I want to give them eight of those 9 minutes to talk because they're late as fuck. But I just want to say thank you to all of you that have tuned in so far and continue to tune in and give me that utmost support because I really do appreciate it. I respect it. Y'all have no idea. It's hard as fuck to hold the attention for one person. The attention of one person for 2 fucking hours. It's a nice day today. It's a Saturday. Y'all got a whole bunch of shit that y'all preparing to do. And I'm just honored to say, damn it, if y'all tune into me on any Saturday, I'm just thankful. That's all. I'm just thankful because this is hard work. Y'all have no fucking idea. Every fucking week, I get turned down by people. People that promised me they were going to be here. People that are mad because I don't follow their agenda. People that want to come on the show and redirect the direction of the show. People that just want to just make it the way they want to make it and not the way it is. Um, it's just crazy. My guest just walked in. We have approximately 11
You
minutes.
don't want to sit.
No, she has to shit. Not shit. I said she has to sit. That was a Freudian slip. You don't want to sit? Oh, wait. You don't want to sit? Okay, she don't want to sit. That's cool. Okay, but she's here. She's here. She's here for moral support, and I'm gonna tell you about how I met this young lady. Down the line. Down the line. Down the line. You want to sit?
No, now she does.
Yeah, sit. Sit, please. Sit. Sit. Sit.
Okay, just a moment. Let me hear.
No, we only got 10 minutes left.
Well, work it out, man.
She says work it out.
Work it out, bro.
Ain't this some shit? She says work it out. Can you sit, please? We got 10 minutes left. I want to give you the whole 10 minutes, please.
I'm gonna take it
Thank
a
you.
moment of the 10.
Thank you. No, I want earphones, please.
Okay then.
Okay, here you go.
Thank you.
Okay. For now. For y'all can see her. This is Chanticue.
Chanticue, yes.
This is Chanticue. This is my homie Chanticue.
I don't know what I look like. I don't know if I
You look
like this.
you good. This is my homie Chanticue.
Okay then.
We were talking about drug culture,
Okay then.
right?
Take the camera off of me, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
She wants the camera off her.
Yeah.
We're talking about drug culture. I gave a little backdrop about not how you and I met, but I gave a backdrop about just me in terms of how, my life has been. I met her in 1997, by the way. That's 21 years ago. But for the brief time that you are here now, I want to get your take on drug culture. I need you to give your thing on drug culture, everything it entails as far as you're concerned, and yes, drug culture.
I'm not sure how to answer that.
Okay, what do you think drug culture is? Let me guide you. Just
Please.
speak closer to the mic.
Okay then.
Okay, drug culture. What do you think drug culture is? Okay, people are more so open with their drug use of all aspects, whether it be alcohol.
Today they are, yes.
Yeah, whether it be alcohol, whether it be weed or whatever, they're more open. Have we become more accepting of drugs with limits, right? Or do you think we are going downhill? What's your point?
I think we're going downhill.
Can you explain why?
Because drugs have not been decriminalized.
Okay.
Okay. It's being commercialized.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our communities are suffering. Can I just say that I was not prepared for this?
Of course you can say it.
Okay, then. I feel like I'm being put on the spot.
Good. Good.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so, again, I didn't hear the show, so I'm not sure how to properly engage.
We're talking about drug culture.
I understand that, and I'm not quite certain how to respond to that.
Just respond as it comes to you. Well, you know me. You know I'm not going to ever put you in a position where you look crazy or whatever case may be.
I understand that.
That's not what it is.
No.
But my point is, when it comes down to it, we're talking about drug culture and the things that we have accepted now as part of our lives versus things that may be really detrimental. Let me give an example so I can
Thank
put
you. Yes,
okay. Weed, right? And I've said this before. Nobody has ever, to my knowledge, smoked a blunt and went home and beat their wife. Nobody that I know
Correct.
has ever done that. But yet they want to make weed this crazy drug that somehow is a gateway to other drugs. Whereas if you smoke some Kush,
And settle
the
your brain.
the next thing is the needle. Right? This is what they're saying. What's your take on it?
It's not a gateway. I don't think it's a gateway. I don't use it as a gateway.
Speak your piece.
The government wants to be involved. so that they can control it.
Is it a money making venture?
Absolutely, it is.
Can you speak a little clearer to me? So it's a money making venture.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But do you think, in your opinion, that the government was always making money?
Absolutely.
So why legalize it now if they were making money twofold? They were making money.
They're not properly legalizing it. They haven't even decriminalized it.
No?
No. No.
So do you think in the next 2 years that it will be like recreational use will be widespread across the United States?
No. Absolutely not.
Why not? Because
they can't control it.
Well, okay. At one time they control them. In my personal opinion, they control what came across the border.
Yes.
Right. So they made money for the letting shit across the border, right? And they also made money when they criminalized you. it's like we're gonna let this shit in and we're gonna catch you as soon as you pick it up. So we got you in this aspect because we got money because they paid us to let it in, and we got your ass because now you a prisoner.
Yes. Right.
And that 13th Amendment kicks in. Right. Boom. So now, in your personal opinion. Right, and I've asked a person on my Facebook page. I was like, "Yo, what drugs have you used?" And he said, He said he smoked crack. He said cocaine. He said heroin. He said LSD. Yo, he said a whole bunch of shit. And I was like, "Bruh, how are you still alive?" Right? But the hardest thing that a person has had to do was stop smoking cigarettes.
Yes.
So do you smoke cigarettes?
I do.
So let me ask you a question. Why, in your opinion, do you think that people will stop doing all these other particular drugs, right?
Yes.
Like cold turkey and rehab, whatever came in, but I gotta have a Newport. Like, what's that about?
It's an addiction.
But why is it easier? Why haven't people just stopped everything? Why do they hold on to what's legal?
Because it's in their face. The government mans it. Mm-hmm. It's in the stores.
But can't
Same rule applies with alcohol. It's in your face. It's controlled by the government.
So do you think that we are influenced by subliminal images?
Absolutely. Look in the store. The beer container is the first cabinet that you witness before getting a container of orange juice.
And you know, you're right that you're right about that. They put Budweiser.
Absolutely.
They put that up front because they want you to see that and have it in your psyche. Mm-hmm. That's our culture.
Absolutely.
And see, so because you weren't privy to what we were talking about, I'm letting you in on it.
Speeding me up.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, because the culture says Budweiser's okay. Michelob is okay. Heineken's cool. Corona with lime.
Billy D. Williams, Coke 45.
Exactly. And he had the deep voice, right? Yes. So he made women think like, well, if you ain't talking like this, then you ain't really cool. So dudes is like, I got Coke 45. Or if a broke dude was like, well, I got Old English. Or I got private stock. But it's part of our culture to make us think that in order to be cool, you got to have this.
Yes.
And we were fooled by it. We were fooled by it because we weren't cool, right? What we were doing was purporting, our alcoholic agenda.
Okay.
You feel me? And now, 2019. So much awareness is out there. So much education is out there. And when you look at people that say, well, hey, such and such is not good for you, and so is not good for you, right? And I used to say this all the time about the 5%ers. They used to tell me, hey, young God, the swine is on your mind and the pork is on your fork. You know what I'm saying? And the pig is what you dig, right? Right? About pork.
Okay.
And they tell me, you don't supposed to use this toothpaste and don't chew this gum. And I be like, but y'all motherfuckers are telling me all this shit and y'all still sniffing mad coke. Mm-hmm. Like, how if you're going to educate me about being healthy, be well-rounded.
Okay.
You can't tell me don't do this, don't do this, don't do that, and
Standard.
you going to buy 8-ball. Like let's keep it even keel.
Want them to stand in their integrity?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. But our culture, based upon what's accepted,
Okay.
not what's right or what's healthy, is what dictates what we do.
Fair. I can live with that.
You can live with that?
Yeah.
So, Miss Chanticue Glover, we only got 30 seconds. If somebody's down there, they dead.
Oh, wow.
No, there's another show.
Oh, I know it's another show. It's another show coming up. I just want to thank Chanticue. Her name is Shantique. Shantique Glover. That's my homie since 1997.
Thank you, Mr. Fontaine.
That's my homie. That's my homie right there. She came last minute. But it's cool. She's welcome. She'll be back here at another Saturday on a more
Better note, please.
And a more timely basis.
Absolutely.
Because I actually invited you, and I actually was on the phone with someone else who never showed up.
Oh, I did it. I came.
So at least you showed up, right? And your job obligations made it hard. But I just want to say thank you to all that tuned in. This is Tom Fontaine, Straight No Chases, the talk show. We have to close out. Thanks to Chanticue, Shantique Glover.
Thank you.
And we out.